Good afternoon, everybody. You guys are amazing. It's incredible to be here in Mumbai. It's wonderful to travel over here. I live in Singapore, and I flew over last night. Yesterday I did a presentation for the Ministry of Home Affairs in Singapore, which was a change management workshop. And in that particular workshop, they were looking at implementing a major project where they were going to take all their forms and really just make it an electronic program. So pretty much just take all their paper and put it electronically. Kind of makes sense. I mean, logically that makes sense to do to increase the efficiency, but it's a huge, huge change process. And so we did some projects, we did some case studies, we did some examples in that particular program where I kind of turned it on its head a little bit, and we did a session where they all had to break out. I've got a couple of slides here somewhere. Just a little bit about myself. I do motivational keynotes at conventions and organizational conventions as well as public conventions. And also I specialize in productivity, increasing productivity, looking at change management and understanding the people component of it. My background is 17 years in corporate leadership history as well as consulting work in Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and all around Asia. Just there actually is the picture of the workshop that we did for the Ministry of Home Affairs. Just above that was a program I did for Prudential in Jakarta early last year for 10,000 people. 10,000 people in a room is pretty amazing. But secretly, you guys are more amazing. Why? Because you're actually here on time. Everybody's still out there, so that's kind of cool. And of course, that photo is of this room, which is a bit peculiar because we've just changed the sign in the background, but never mind. So around Asia is where I particularly specialize. I'm based, like I said, in Singapore, and it's only a 4-hour or 5.5 hour, depending on the delays, flight to get here. The organizations I've dealt with and the organizations that I've spent some time with include companies that you would definitely know, like Axis Bank and Dr. Reddy's. In fact, I'm speaking with Dr. Reddy's in Hyderabad on Monday. And a number of organizations as per the introduction, including Unilever, Procter & Gamble, and people like that. But I was mentioning about this Ministry of Home Affairs program where what we did is I asked them to get into groups and come up with a solution strategy, a communication strategy, a change management strategy for abolishing email, which sounds really peculiar, but it was just an exercise to work on abolishing email. Now what if, because I asked them what were their top 5 time wasters? What are their top 5 time wasters in the organization? And email was one of them. That was the first one that most people said they've got so many emails. How many people here would like to have more email? You're not getting enough. No? Everybody's got enough email? Okay. So email is one of the things that really does bog us down. It does have a huge impact on our productivity, partly because one of the things I'm noticing in that part of the world in particular, I'm not so sure if it happens here, but when somebody completes some piece of work, they decide, you know what, I'm not only going to email the person that needs to know about it, I'm going to also email 75 other people who ought to know that I've just completed something. And so then they send this giant email with everything on it, and they send it to everybody, and they CC everyone and say, I think you should know. I think you should know that I've done something very important here today. And so then everybody's getting all these emails CC'd from everybody to say that I've done something, which is great that everyone's completing tasks, because that is really, really important. But it does create a lot of hassle. The other thing that seemed to take a lot of time, and I don't know if it's happening here, so just let me know. Do you have lots of meetings at work?
Yes.
Yes. I was very enthusiastic. Yes.
It's not working.
It's not working. I've just decided, I don't have to do any work anymore. All I have to do is go to meetings. And so meetings was another one. So we had 2 groups. We broke them into 2 groups. And we had one group focusing on abolishing email. And then how would you communicate that? And because they're abolishing email, they weren't allowed to communicate it via email. So then the other group was also saying we're going to abolish meetings. And they weren't allowed to have meetings for any more than three people. Now, of course, this wasn't the change management process. This wasn't the process that they were about to implement. This was just an exercise where we kind of turned it on its head to take something a little bit ridiculous and get them to argue for it. even though they were resisting the idea themselves. Because if we go back 20 years or so, we would probably have been at a time where we were sending memos to everybody, and we weren't sending emails. And somebody from IT came up and said, you know what, I've got this great idea. We're going to do email. And people in the organization are going, email? Are you out of your mind? That's never going to work. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but memos is what we're used to. And so change management, now these days, of course, we're thinking, yes, of course email. I mean, what are you talking about, going back to do memos?